and welcome to another special edition of the Blues Focus podcast. I'm Kieran, your host for this episode. Joining me this week, I've got Callum, our regular podcaster, and also former Blues favourite, Gary McSheffery. Gary, thank you for taking the time out to join us on this episode. We'll crack straight on for you. I know you're probably a busy guy. Yeah. Obviously, with Friday night's game coming up as well, with your two former clubs, thought it'd be convenient to start on. Obviously, your thoughts on the game coming up on Friday, and also to just talk us through your move from Coventry to Blues. Obviously, how it came about, your thoughts on it at the time.
So obviously the game tomorrow be a good game. It'd be. I was at the games last year, the FA Cup games, and it was a strange one, wasn't it? You know, with it being both clubs' home ground. For that season anyway. So tomorrow, with it being a championship game, it'll be the first of its kind in a while, really. Ground sharing in the same league. So all the ingredients for a good game. You know, both teams will fancy themselves. To be honest, both, you know, Coventry are used to playing there now. Don't think they'll fear Birmingham. I don't think they've feared anyone who they've come up against this season in the champ already. They've lost a few, but they've definitely made it an entertaining game. And, but I think Mark Robins will want to make things a bit more solid at the back and be conceding less goals from now on. So it might be a bit of a different performance from them. Bit more sturdy, hard to beat. But, I say that, but I'm not too sure it's in their makeup at the minute. They're just quite an entertaining team. And, Blues are always... The couple of games last year, the cup games, I thought in the end, probably lucky to win the tie, but ultimately they go to the last minute, don't they? Got a last second equaliser and difficult to beat. And often, when I've watched Blues often over the last few years, they tend to just grind teams down, don't they? And get the job done and see it through. And, so that's something that they'll probably want to do again tomorrow. In terms of obviously my move from Cov to Birmingham, it was, I didn't know anything, to be honest. I was on pre-season training with Coventry, and we was over in America, and Mickey Adams has pulled me and just asked me how I am, etc. And he's just said he's had a call from Steve Bruce, who's put in a bid for me. And to be honest, mate, I didn't think anything of it. Hadn't had an inkling of it, didn't have a clue. I mean, back then it wasn't really like you looked for moves, you know what I mean? I was just enjoying my football at Coventry, playing really well consistently over a few seasons. And I think he offered £1 million, and Mickey Adams wasn't having it. Said he told him basically where to go with it, and asked me, do I want to go? And I was like, well, it's the first I've heard of it. No, not really. Obviously, I'm enjoying my football. And he was like, decent, well, good, that's all I need to hear. End of story kind of thing. But I think it's no secret. It dragged on, and a few more bids come in, and it was dragging on for a few weeks then, probably about a month. From the actual first call, it was probably about 5 weeks after that when I actually signed. So the bids kept getting bigger. Coventry kept turning them down, but at the same time wasn't literally just nipping it in the bud. So it was almost like they wanted higher bids, I think deep down they probably needed the money at the time and wanted the money. And obviously for me, at first it was like the season before I could have went to Reading, and they were, they were really keen for me. It would have been a free transfer though, because I was at the end of my contract, or it might have been compensation because I was under 24. But they were in the champ, so I kind of seen it as a sideways move. But then it was Coventry's first year in the Rico, so I wanted to play there, especially for a season at least. But then Reading went on to smash the league with 106 points, got to the Prem, and I'm thinking, bloody hell, could have been me that. But then, yeah, it was strange. The next year, Blues come in as well. After another good season with Cov, Blues then come in. And although they'd been relegated to the champ, I looked at the squad and the manager, and you just look at the place, the club, and their recent history, and you think it was good recruitment. I thought that summer he got some good young, hungry players from like the Championship and good players from other Prem clubs that weren't quite playing in the teams there. And I just thought, yeah, you know, this is proper. You know what I mean? It's a proper squad. There were still good players there from the season before. Although I think he probably got rid of 10, 12. I think he kept what he felt classed as, you know, the ones he could rely on, the decent players, the grafters. And I looked at the squad and I thought, yeah, it's definitely not a sideways move at the minute. It's although they're in the champ, that's my best way to the Premiership, you know. And everyone wants to play top level. And yeah, so it proved that, yeah, it was a good move. It proved that we got promoted that first season, and you know, the decision to go there was a good one in the end. Everyone, Coventry made real good money out of it. I got a decent move, played Premiership football out of it, and yeah, everyone was winning.
So you talk about your first season at Blues, top goal scorer promotion, but were you frustrated to not win the title in that season?
Yeah, definitely, mate. I mean, we had a bit of a blip, didn't we? Easter weekend, 2 defeats. I think it was Burnley at home, Barnsley away, and both 1-0, I think. And yeah, I mean that actually got us knocked out the top 2 for the first time in ages, like a long time. And we were thinking, wow, what's gone on here? And all of a sudden we were chasing again. Then we win 4 on the spin, secure promotion, and we've just got to go to Preston at the weekend and get a result, haven't we? And yeah, mate, honestly, I look back now and I think, yeah, it would have been nice, you know. And that we lost 1-0 away, mate, and I still remember to the day I missed 2 sitters, 2 headers. I don't know how they didn't go in. One went over, one went wide, and it would have just sealed it. And then they go up the other end and we lose 1-0. And Sunderland done a job at Luton. I think they won 5 or 6 to win the league. So yeah, definitely frustrating because you always want to go up as champs. But ultimately, if someone would have offered us that start of the season, Steve Bruce would have snapped their hands off, you know, to bounce straight back up. But then when you're actually there, of course you want to win. Yeah, it's in your blood. Every elite professional wants to win. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, obviously you've also mentioned Blues was your way into the Premier League, as you've seen, and obviously you got there after a season under Steve Bruce. What was it like playing for Steve Bruce, and also what was it like finally when you made it to the Prem, playing it with Blues in the Premier League? I think you played a couple of games for Coventry, if I'm not mistaken.
I'd had a few appearances. I'd had 4. Like, I played for Coventry when I was 16, like first year scholar. I had an appearance then at 16, and then I played, I think, 3 more the next year. And then I think we got relegated. So I'd had 4 appearances as a kid, as a puppy, really. And but yeah, to then get my next appearance when I was 24. Yeah, coming up, the season started when I was 24, and I was literally 25 in the August. So to wait 7 years for my next game in the Prem was a long stint, but worth it. Yeah, I mean, Steve Bruce was good. He was really good. You know, he was approachable, decent. Could have a chat with him. Decent man manager. Hammered you, bollocked you when you needed it, but at the same time made you feel $1 million. You know, when you were in form, it was like the confidence he instilled in you was really good. He let Eric Black do a lot of the training. Eric Black's training sessions were really good, like really stimulating, motivating, good fun, you know, kept the lads buzzing. And then Bruce on a Thursday, Friday, he'd come out, he'd do his stuff, he'd do his tactical stuff, like in possession, out possession stuff, who we were playing against, what their threats are and how we can beat them. And then Friday, he was like Dennis Law in the 5-a-sides or Bobby Charlton, you know. It was just good fun, really funny. But then I always said about Bruce, at 2:45, 2:50 on a Saturday, that's when he really like earned his money. He was all about putting on a show for the pundits, you know. Made you just want to go out and really run through brick walls for the fans, really. It was all about you know, you guys have been working all week and this is your release. You come to St Andrews to be entertained. So let's go and entertain them. And you go out there with, like I say, the hairs on the back of your neck, standing up full of confidence. And that's when he really got you going.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned Bruce briefly. Obviously, he's not so well thought of amongst some Blues fans now for obvious reasons with his switch across the other side of the city. But his name gets mentioned a lot even now, doesn't it? It gets unfair stick at Newcastle, doesn't he, really? So I thought it'd be worth just getting your views on him, really, as a manager and as a person.
Yeah, he was that. He was top. I thought he was top man. I thought he was really good. Probably best manager I played for that period. So yeah, I mean, ultimately, I think you look at like Newcastle fans. I mean, what do they want? You know, what do they want? Because ultimately, I think they probably want the team of Alan Shearer, Ferdinand, Ginola back, don't they? When they were the entertainers. But what have they had since that group? You know, they've had highs, lows, relegations, and he's gone in there, done a decent enough job, and got them a solid Premiership club again, hasn't he? And they look comfortable in the division. Like they don't really look like they're going to struggle, and they get the points when they need to. They win them games when they need to, and I think he's done good in the transfer market this summer. You know, getting Callum Wilson was a real steal. You know, getting a proven goal scorer in the Premier League. It's what they were missing, really. They had some good players, but no real end product. And I think he's obviously pinpointed that. And when he got the man he wants, but I just say it depends what you want, what the expectancy level is from the fans. But for me, can I see Newcastle being a top sort of 6 club ever again? I don't think you can. Not in the short term, unless they get mega money takeover and it's a limitless pot, you know. But I think he's done a good job. I think he's decent. You know what you're going to get, and a lot of the time it's survival now in the Premiership.
Obviously, you've played with some good players at Blues and obviously Coventry as well. Just pick out one who's the best player you've ever played with, preferably at Blues.
Yeah, there was loads. There was big names when I went there. For Sal, I've watched him score goals for years. Matty Upson was unbelievable. He played in World Cups, do you know what I mean? Dunny was a good player. Training, you couldn't get the ball off him. There was some really good players. And then in the Alex McLeish era, he brought some good players in, you know. Barry Ferguson was similar. Stephen Carr was unbelievable. But I always say Stephen Clements for me. He was that year we got promoted in my first season. He didn't start the season. He was in and out. Then he probably went maybe 8-10 games without a game, and could see he was frustrated. And I remember we lost to Norwich at home on a midweek game. I think Bruce was under massive pressure then, and he put Clem back in the team. He put Damien Johnson and Martin Taylor back in the team. Derby away, and we won 1-0. And then we went 13 unbeaten after that with I think 11 wins. And Clem come in and he was captain, and I just think he took that season and then by the scruff of the neck, probably played about 35 games on the spin and scored about 6, 7, 8 goals, a few assists, but would take the ball anywhere. And I literally think that along with us attackers getting the goals and that, he literally dragged us over the line, I think. You know, I think he led by example and really stood up to it and stood up to the challenge, you know, and showed what a top player he was. So I always see him because he had a massive impact on me personally in a particular season, in that promotion season.
Yeah, I mean, in that season as well, the one thing that stands out for me, I'm going to ask you your highlight of your time at Blues, but the one bit that stands out for me, a younger lad at the time, I remember being at the home game against Preston when you scored your hat-trick. And I think that's when people really realised, obviously, what a player we'd actually signed. But for you, what was your highlight of your time playing for the club?
Yeah, that day definitely stands up to it, and that's right up there. Yeah, it was a good day. It was like Preston were decent when they at the time. It was top of the table clash with first and second. I think we went top that after that game, so that was definitely a highlight. Yeah, there was another one, West Brom at home 2-0, and I managed to get both goals. That was they had a great team, West Brom. You know, they had like Phillips and Hartson on the bench that day. They had Kamara, Kumas, some top players, Greening, full of good Premier League players. You know, and to get the 2 goals that day was massive, and I was buzzing and had some good moments. The Wolves away game was unreal. You know, to win 3-2 there, and I think that made us probably 1 win away from promotion in the end. But yeah, I mean, a lot of it, obviously, that first season for probably 6-7 months, just like felt a bit untouchable. You know, I was going on the pitch knowing that if I weren't scoring, I was assisting, and the team were going to win, and it was confidence that I don't know. I wish that confidence lasted forever. Do you know what I mean? But obviously, it's difficult. But that the whole season really, and then on when we did get promotion, you know, there was a lot of pressure then going into the Prem. Put a lot of pressure on myself. But just getting the win at Tottenham at White Hart Lane, scoring my first goal was a great feeling. And to play, I think 30 odd starts that season was good. It's what every kid dreams of.
Obviously, you touch on the players McLeish brought into the club. Were you ever at all frustrated under that time?
Yeah, I was quite a lot of the time. Yeah, frustration. Quite a lot of the time, definitely, because, like I say, because I'd scored so many goals, like people forget that I was back then. We used to play like a left 4-4-2, didn't we? I was a left midfielder at the end of the day, but because I was scoring so many goals consistently for Coventry, then for Blues in the first season, we went into the Prem, and it's a different kettle of fish, you know what I mean, with the opposition and that, and a lot of the time we were just set up not to lose and be rigid, 2 solid 4s. And I always felt like I did a job in that system. But what that then did, it took away the kind of like flair and, you know, the end product of going and scoring goals and going and winning. And I could have probably ended up with 10, 11, 12 that first season, but I hit the bar a few times, missed a few sitters, and I ended up with 3 goals. And I looked at that and I thought, bloody hell, I have not scored 3 goals in a season since ever, really. And I think I let the confidence affect me with that. But then, yeah, I mean, Alex brought in some good players, like I said. Brought in McFadden was obviously the first big one, who was on fire for Scotland money. He was doing really well. Brought him in as a striker. But then, you know, as soon as he weren't really probably banging the goals in as regularly as what he probably wanted, or the 6 million like price tag would have suggested, then automatically it was out to the left when it left midfield. So I kind of knew I always felt like I was trying to impress him, you know, and as you should feel like you're trying to impress your manager, of course, but there was never that confidence of you know, the trust. I didn't think he had the trust in me that, you know, he'd put me on the team sheet as regularly as I wanted, and it proved in the end. But ultimately, that's down to my performance level as well, and then me overcoming them that thought process in your head. So maybe being a little bit stronger mentally, you know, to not let them thoughts get in your head and overthink things. But yeah, there was frustrations looking back. There was at the time, but I got on with it. I trained really well, mate. I know I trained well at Birmingham, and I put everything into it. But ultimately, I just wasn't his type of player, I don't think. And in the end, I moved on.
Yeah, I mean, I think you had a couple of loan spells away at the time. The one that I seem to remember was when you went to Forest because you had to have surgery on your knee. Is that right? No, obviously, that hampered your move.
I went Forest. I'd been injured a lot that season, so that was the 3rd season when I'd been injured a lot. I had tendonitis in my knee and it weren't going. Just couldn't shrug it off, couldn't get rid of it. So I'd been in and out, and then I'd been injured, tried to come back 2 or 3 times, still wasn't right. So I probably ended up missing a good 4 or 5 months of the season. And that's when Billy Davis come in. The gaffer called me at the time, said, Billy Davis wants you at Forest on loan. It'd be good to you to go and get some games. And so I thought nothing of it. Yeah, I'll go and get some games. Brilliant. And literally went, and the knee weren't right. I knew it weren't right. It was just trying to grind through and manage it. But, ultimately I'd missed too much football to go there and hit the ground running, and really I knew I was a shadow of the player I am, you know what I mean? And I went there not match fit and really not fit enough to affect games. And I spoke to Billy. I said, look, my knee's not right. I need to sort this out. And basically, yeah. So after 4 or 5 games, I went to Sweden, got surgery on my knee, and give it a go. I tried that season 3 or 4 times to come back, but it weren't quite right. And in the end, surgery sorted it out.
Over the course of your career, is there anything that stands out that could be a regret of yours?
There's always regrets in certain moments and that. Like the second loan, I went to Leeds. Yeah, that's a regret because it was a massive club, and that's what lured me in. But we were in the Prem. I was sitting on the bench in the Premier League, and I went to League One on loan. And looking back now, I'm thinking that just wouldn't happen. Do you know what I mean? I should have had, I don't know, people, I don't know, maybe people around me or even myself, like, what you're doing, you know what I mean? Stay at Birmingham, you're sitting on the bench in the Prem, just fight for your place, because ultimately what I was concerned about though is my contract was up in the summer. So I looked at it and thought, I need to go and play. I need to show people I'm fit and I'm playing and ready. So I looked at it like that. I'll go there and I'll earn a deal. But to be honest, I should have just sat at Blues on the bench in the Prem, and I'd have got a deal anywhere in the Championship in the summer. And Leeds come up that year. I went there. And then it's a great club. Great club. I just wish again I probably had more to offer them. But looking back, that was a bit of a regret. Yeah, I wish it was the right club at the wrong time. I'd have loved to have played there permanent for longer. But ultimately, I made a bit of a rash decision in going there on loan, and that's probably the major one.
Yeah, I mean, after your loan spell to Leeds, you finished up back at Coventry, didn't you, on a free contract? Was it good to get back to old stomping ground and kind of back to a place you knew, fans you knew?
Yeah, it was nice because Adi Boothroyd, he rang me and he just took over at Cov, and you just ultimately everybody wants to be loved and appreciated, don't they? So he brought me in. He said I was like his marquee signing, and I really enjoyed that season. To be fair, back in the Champ playing, it's like the shackles were off again. I know I did all right personally. Again, I think I got 9 goals that year in a bottom 16 in the Champ. If someone got 9 goals now in a bottom 16 in the Champ, they're probably getting a £12 million move. You know what I mean? But again, that was looked upon as failure, because when I left Cov, I was getting 17 a season. You know what I mean? And then, so I look back now and I think, bloody hell. But they're the things that I let get into my head and creep into my head a bit. But ultimately, I knew I did all right. And yeah, it was nice to be back. It really was. But yeah, the next year we got relegated, which was frustrating because we had a decent squad, and we should never have got relegated from the Champ that season.
Obviously, you look at players at the Blues now. You've got one in particular, Scott Hogan, kind of labelled as a confidence player. When you were playing with Blues, obviously playing and you were scoring, is a lot of it confidence? Do you think if Scott was to score a couple, he'd go on to score loads more? Or Is it something different? How did you find that? Was there any times you not scored and thought, oh, it's going to be a rocky few weeks, or was it, or what what is the mindset of an attacking player in that sense?
Well, he did it last year, didn't he? He went on. He went on to score. I watched Blues at Barnsley, and he scored the winner 1-0, and then I think he scored 4 in 4, didn't he? Probably all winning goals as well. So you could see his confidence. That's when he was on loan. You could see his confidence from that was flying, and he was getting the goals. And things do happen in patches, but a lot of the time as well, it depends how the team's set up. Like I always said, Blues for me were the last few years were just grinding things out, but they had Djukovic and Che Adams just scoring loads of goals, didn't they? And if you've got them goal scorers, you're all right. But then all of a sudden, if them players don't score goals, you're almost going into probably games thinking where we're going to get the goals from now, or if the chances dry up. If the strikers are getting chances, it's fine, because eventually their luck will change and they'll put them in the net. But if they're not getting chances, their confidence will be affected. They'll probably be going into games thinking, or feel like all they're doing is running around, chasing, probably setting up like not to get beat again. That's probably how I looked at it the last couple of years, doing a few games for Blues TV and stuff like that. I looked at them and I thought, the way they set up, the personnel they have, in the midfield, and that, I just think they needed a bit more creativity in the squad. Hopefully they've went and got that with a couple of players this season.
During your playing career as well, is there a one goal that stands out to you that you scored personally, your favourite goal that you scored, whether it be a tap in, a 30-yard screamer?
There's few. Blooming hell, one goal. Probably my first goal for Cov was I don't know how old I was. I might have been 18 or something, I'm not sure. But Crystal Palace away back in the Championship days when Cov had first come out of the Prem. I took a ball down out of the sky with my right foot and volleyed it in, touch volley, and it was a top goal, to be fair. That's probably, and it was my first as well for Coventry, so that's probably one.
And then also just talk to us a bit about what you're up to now then. So I believe you're part of the coaching staff at Doncaster Rovers, is that right? Yeah,
so I've been coaching at Doncaster for two and a bit seasons now. I joined as assistant 18s coach a couple of years ago, whilst I still wanted to play. I was still going to play a bit part-time, and coach during the day there. But the part-time stuff fizzled out, really. I didn't really get decent enough clubs to really, be motivated to do it. And I felt like I was sort of chasing National League North clubs to go and play football, and just got a bit frustrating and a bit thinking, what am I doing? I've played 19 good years, do you know what I mean, at a good level, to now we're getting knockbacks off clubs in the National League North part-time, I know, for whatever reason. So I just kind of knuckled down and cracked on with the coaching, and I'm still there, yeah. So I did the 18s, then last year I did the 23s. We've got rid of the 23s now because of COVID restrictions and budget cuts, etc. So this year I'm kind of doing the under 16s and 18s as well, but kind of like a transition coach. But because of the bubbles now and the EFL guidelines and stuff, you can't really cross bubbles. So it's been a bit of a frustrating stop-start season. After 2 good years of really almost learning a lot, climbing a ladder, learning a lot off Darren Moore and Jamie Smith, top coaches, good manager. Been through the whole age groups at West Brom, and West Brom have got a real good academy and play the right way all the way through. So good learning place for me, to be fair. Just a bit frustrated that it's been stop-start this season. So hopefully come the new year, I can crack right on for the second half of the season and be heavily involved.
Obviously, if you've watched Blues at any point this season, what are your views on the season so far, and where do you think Karanka can sort of take the squad at the moment?
I mean, all I've watched is like the goals shows. Do you know what I mean? The highlights and this and that. Not really up to date with their squad, to be honest, at the minute. Like I said, I knew over the last couple of seasons where they needed to improve. They needed more creativity in the team, definitely. I think their wingers. I looked at I judged it from like sort of the team I played in, and I looked and I thought I was left wing, Larson was right wing, and you're getting like 30 goals from us two in the season in the champ. And I used to watch Jota, and I thought he was like some days unbelievable, score a great goal, this and that, but I thought he was like he'd perform 1 in every 4 games for me. Magoma was like a workhorse. I just didn't think there was enough end product from the wingers, and there was so much onus on the wingers and the 2 strikers, and there was no more creativity in the team. So I think they needed to address that, and it looks like they've got a couple more creative players through the door, which is good. And Djukovic always does a job. He's a handful. He's a good target man. Always chips in with his goals. I just think what Blues fans are used to, the nitty gritty, but the entertaining football and edge of your seat stuff. I think it's just like it's gone away a little bit in recent years, and it'd be great to just get that back. You know, entertaining football, and team like Blues should be in the mix every season in the Championship, top end. You know, from how low they went in and they can't get back up there, it's surprising. So hopefully he can be the man to do it, and you know he can attract the type of player that the club need. But like I say, the Championship now, the budgets are so big, the wages are so big that it's hard to compete. And if you want to keep the club in a good position financially, you're just going to have to be very shrewd in the transfer market.
Yeah, it's definitely becoming more and more difficult, isn't it? You know for yourself, obviously, what the Blues fans are like. There's always groups of fans, even when we're struggling, who obviously still expect us to be in and around there. But it's a building job, isn't it? I suppose for him on his hands at the minute.
I mean, it is a building job, but I look and think their wage bill is probably twice as big as my team's. Do you know what I mean? The team I played in, and I look and I think, for the money they're paying, surely they can get a better type of player, more exciting type of player, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that's about all we've got time for on this episode anyway, but thanks again for joining us, Gary. It's been a pleasure to chat with you about your time at the club, and good luck for the rest of your season at Doncaster. Hopefully we can get you on again sometime soon.
Thanks, Kieran. Cheers, mate. Thanks, Callum.
Cheers, mate.
Yeah, thanks to everyone at home for watching. Until next time.
Cheers, guys. See you in a bit.